suspended.
It's a developing story, but this we know. Fernando Tatis Jr. is out 80 games, effective immediately. He also won't be eligible to play in the postseason either, all because he tested positive for a performance-enhancing substance, clostebol. We're going to have more on that in a minute. Tatis has been on the IL all season after breaking his wrist in a motorcycle accident in the offseason. So here's how this suspension maps out. Starting tonight, Tatis will miss the final 48 games of the regular season. Now, if San Diego would make the playoffs, those games will count toward his 80. The balance will then be served at the start of next season. The Padres owe Tatis more than $300 million over the next 12 years. So what's the suspension going to cost him? Just under $3 million. As for Tatis, he did release a statement in which he said, quote, "I inadvertently took a medication to treat ringworm that contained clostebol. I should have used the resources available to me in order to ensure that no banned substances were in what I took. I failed to do so." Tatis went on to apologize to his teammates, the Padres organization, and fans. He also said, "I have no excuses for my error, and I would never do anything to cheat or disrespect the game I love. I am completely devastated. There was nowhere else in the world I would rather be than on the field competing with my teammates. After initially appealing the suspension, I have realized that my mistake was the cause of this result, and for that reason, I've decided to start serving my suspension immediately."
This was not a mistake. Like I said earlier, this was a choice he made. This isn't something that was by accident. This drug that he was taking is an anabolic steroid, and it has to be injected into your body over and over again. This was not tainted protein. This was not a pre-workout. This is not a foot cream like we saw with Freddie Galvis back in the day. This is he's a syringe, and he's putting steroids into his body. This was not a mistake, and he's going to have to pay for it.
He's going to have to pay for it for sure. And look, there are 48 games left in the regular season for San Diego. So he's going to miss the 48 games rest of the season. Then it's going to tack on another 32 for next season. So we're talking about already a delayed start to his next season when he makes his debut. If you're a player in the clubhouse, Will, if you're in that San Diego clubhouse, how are you feeling right now?
I know how well received he is. I know how much those guys really like him as a person. But behind closed doors, they're angry. They're mad. This is a guy they lean on. The motorcycle accident is one thing, right? That accidents happen. Yeah, should he have been in that situation? Absolutely not. Accidents happen. This was put on himself by himself. He did this to himself, and it's going to hurt his team. It's going to hurt the future of this team. They're still loaded. They're still a really good team that can compete, but this team is built around Fernando Tatis Jr. for the next 12 years. So he's going to have to come back and make a big splash. And you know, I hate to say this, but unfortunately, it's a result-driven industry. And if he plays well, people will forget about it until that day comes when his name is on a Hall of Fame ballot, and it will all be dug up again.
Man, this is crushing news.
I hate it.
And now, here's from Joe Musgrove, one of the top leaders in that clubhouse, just got an extension himself, and he does a great job leading by example. He said he's a young kid. He's going to learn his lessons or whatnot, but ultimately, I think you got to start showing a little bit of remorse, and you got to start showing us that you're committed to it and want to be here, which is true. Having this suspension is obviously letting the team down a ton after they went all in for Juan Soto. They're playing very well without him. They were counting on him to come back. They're committing so much money to him, and then he is showing a lack of commitment, whether it's getting injured in a motorcycle accident in the offseason or just not showing he's completely bought in after all of this. So Joe Musgrove with some good quotes here, and everything he said was true.
Very disappointed. It's the second time we've been disappointed with him, and it's just, you hope he grows up and, learns from this and learns that it's not just, it's about more than just him right now. No, look at this clubhouse. We really don't need anybody else. It would be nice to have somebody else, but we don't need anybody else. We got everyone we need right here.
He hasn't been part of the team all year, and we've gotten to this point so far without him. We're waiting to get him back, and hopefully him to be a spark plug for the team. But we've been doing it all year. Just continue doing it. Same message continues to go since day one, since we had all year. So we still have the same goal, which is to try to make a World Series and bring a championship to San Diego, and that's what we're going to try to continue to do.
The goal may be the same, Manny Machado said, but he also said that it doesn't really matter of hearing from Fernando Tatis, at least not right now, because the focus is on trying to continue on throughout this season and trying to get to that World Series. That sort of echoes what I heard from Mike Clevenger when I spoke to him after the game. I asked him what did he want to hear from Fernando Tatis Jr. when he had a chance to talk to him, and he said honestly he didn't know, because it's just still so soon after receiving this news. It was just 30 minutes before the game that the Padres players even found out themselves that this would be happening. So Clevenger told me when it's time to cross that bridge, they will certainly do that. And again, this was happening on a night that was supposed to be all about Juan Soto and his return to D.C., but we're also having this conversation about Fernando Tatis Jr., as you alluded to, Max.
Look, there's keeping it real, and then there's keeping it real like his teammates did. A lot of work ahead for Tatis on the field and off, as Coley Harvey covering the Padres in D.C.
Preller was highly supportive of Fernando, and it was announced he would undergo surgery in March to repair a wrist fracture suffered in an off-season motorcycle accident. He chose not to take advantage of any clauses in his contract to recoup money in order to maintain good relations with a player they consider a cornerstone of the franchise over the next decade plus.
President A.J. Preller did speak to reporters outside the team clubhouse tonight in D.C., and he said in part, it's very disappointing. We were hoping that from the offseason to now, there would be some maturity, and obviously with the news today, it's more of a pattern and something that we have to dig into a bit. I'm sure he's very disappointed, but at the end of the day, it's one thing to say it. You've got to start showing it with your actions.